County Norristown Public Library, and today we are going to make ice cream in a bag. But first, before we start anything, I'm going to talk about all of the normal things that you should always do when you're ready to cook in the kitchen. First of all, always come dressed to cook. What I mean by that is don't wear anything that's floppy or will drag in your food that you're preparing or get caught in your burner when you're cooking. You don't want anything to get in the way of what you're doing for cleanliness sake and for safety sake. You want to make sure your hair is pulled back away from your face and tied up or wrapped up so that you don't have to keep pushing it and fussing with it. You don't want to wear any jewelry, dangly earrings that could fall off into your batter, any watches, bracelets, necklaces, or anything that could swing and get into your food or fall into the heating elements, your burners. You don't want basically anything that's going to interfere with your cooking. And as far as cleanliness, you want to make sure that you wash all your surfaces where you're working. You can just use ordinary dish soap and hot water and a clean cloth. Wipe off your counters, your stovetop, anywhere that you're going to be working with food. And as you're working, if you make a mess, clean it up right away. You don't want to work on a messy surface. And most importantly, wash your hands. Before you start, anytime you touch something that's not food or whatever equipment you're working with, wash your hands. Scratch your nose, touch your hair, anything that's not food, just wash your hands. You can never wash your hands too many times in a kitchen while you're cooking. So these are the basic things that you should always do whenever you're ready to go in the kitchen to cook. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our process and our ingredients. First of all, we're going to talk about ice cream, which is what we're making. How ice cream is frozen. It has to be frozen below the freezing point. What is the freezing point? Do you know? 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 Celsius. So most freezers are set way below 32. Your refrigerator freezer is way below 32, sometimes usually around 0. So it's pretty cold in there, and which is why we put stuff in there, it freezes, because it's below the freezing point. So we're going to use ice, and the ice is going to melt as we handle it, as we use it to make our ice cream. So what we're going to do is we're going to add salt to it. And this is magical because it's science. It's not magic. When you add salt to ice, it drops the freezing point of the ice. In other words, it makes the ice colder. So that's how the ice cream can freeze in a bag full of ice, because the salt that goes in on top of the ice makes it actually colder than the freezing point. So that's what makes your ice cream freeze, or your ice cream mix freeze. So, so the process is we're going to mix up our ice cream ingredients. There's milk, sugar, and vanilla. Very simple. And we're going to put it inside a bag, and then put that bag inside another bag that has the ice and salt in it. And we're going to shake it so that the ice crystals break up as they're freezing, so that we don't get big clumps of ice as we're freezing. Because if you just froze your milk and your milk mixture, it's going to be just a frozen block, and that's no fun. Okay, so we're going to start with the ingredients that are in your packet. You're going to have a can of evaporated milk, and you're going to have a 1/4 cup of salt, and you're going to have a little bit of sugar. And that's my giant sugar bin. And then you will need to have vanilla for your flavoring, and you will need to have ice. And you're going to need probably about 4 cups of ice, or you're going to need to fill a Ziploc bag about halfway, a little bit more. So you can maybe to if you have the ice cube trays, maybe 2 of those, or if you were lucky enough to have an ice making refrigerator, you can just keep getting the ice out until you have enough. But we'll work on that later. So what we're going to do next is look at the supplies we need, the equipment. So we're going to need a measuring cup. This is a liquid measuring cup. It has a pour spout and a handle. And it will need to be a cup measure. You'll need a 1/4 cup of dry measure. So the difference between this kind of measuring cup and this kind of measuring cup, this one is made specifically for liquids. This is made for solid ingredients and dry ingredients. So always use this for the non-liquids and use this for the liquids. And then you're going to need a tablespoon measure and a 1/2 teaspoon measure. And optionally, if you want to use a whisk to mix your ingredients up, there are a couple options for mixing, and you can use this or a spoon to stir things if you want. You don't need to. You're also going to need some plastic bags, and I have actual Ziploc bags here. I have a quart size, a smaller one, and a gallon size, which is a larger one. And so you want to have good quality Ziploc bags. This is something you shouldn't skimp on. If this is something you want to do again and again, you should get yourself a box of, really good quality zippers, so that your stuff doesn't leak out. Because the worst thing, I've made this before, this ice cream, and the worst thing is that if you get the salted ice water into your bag with the ice cream in it, then you have salty ice cream, and that's no fun. Okay, so we're going to start by mixing our ingredients. Okay, so we're going to do a little kitchen math here. First thing is, we're going to see how much is in this can, and this has 12 fluid ounces. So if we add 12 fluid ounces of water to 12 fluid ounces of evaporated milk, how much milk are we going to end up with? 2 times 12, or 12 plus 12, is 24. So we're going to have 24 ounces of milk when we're all finished with this. And we need 8 ounces for our recipe. So we need a cup. We need 8 ounces as a cup. So if we have 24 ounces of reconstituted milk and we need 8, how many batches of ice cream can we make out of this can of evaporated milk? We have 24, and we divide that by 8. How many times does 8 go into 24? Don't use your calculator, use your head. You should know this. How about 24 divided by 8 is 3. So if you measure everything correctly, you should be able to get 3 batches out of 1 can of evaporated milk. Now, if you don't have evaporated milk, you can use regular milk from home. Whole milk works best. The more fat you have in your ice cream mix, the creamier it's going to be and the softer it's going to be, because fat doesn't really freeze. So that's why ice cream made with real cream is softer and smoother and creamier, because the fat is not frozen solid. So if you want to have a little bit creamier ice cream, you can use half and half. A lot of the recipes for ice cream call for half and half, which is a dairy product that's half milk and half cream. And a lot of people use that in their coffee. But you can buy that at the store. Or if you have heavy cream, you can do half the amount of heavy cream and half the amount of milk and have your half and half. So, but this just plain milk should work fine. I've done it before. And it's frozen and it's delicious, and that's all we need. So we're going to open up this can of milk, and there are 2 ways you can open a can of milk. First of all, make sure that it's very well shaken up, because the stuff on the inside can separate a bit or stick to the sides. So you want to shake it up. So you can either use one of these kinds of openers, and maybe doesn't want to stick to the, okay. So you want to make two holes. You want a pour hole and an air hole. So, because if you don't pour an air hole, it doesn't want to come out, because you need some air displacement, or need the air to go in where the liquid was. So if we make a little hole, see how easily that pours out of there. The other way is you just open it with a can opener, and you can do it this way as well. Okay. All right. So we need 1 cup, which is 8 ounces. So half of that is going to be evaporated milk. So half of 8 8 divided by 2 is 4, or half of 1 cup is 1/2 cup. So we're going to pour 1/2 cup in there. And, whoa, just be careful you don't dump it on the counter. Now if you want a little bit, you don't want to skimp on the evaporated milk, because there's nothing worse than watery milk. So if you want to err on the side of caution, that means give yourself a little bit more than what's required. You could pour a slightly bit more of the evaporated milk in there, and a little bit less water, and then you'll have a little bit richer flavor. And I've added water into the cup to bring it up to 8 ounces, 1 cup. So this is our reconstituted milk. Now there's 2 ways you can mix this. I would recommend putting it into a bowl with your other ingredients and mixing it up with a whisk or a spoon. The alternative is to put it in the bag and mix it up. And it's fun to do it that way, but the sugar, it takes longer to dissolve, I think. So it's better to do it in a bowl and then pour it into the bag. So now we're going to need 1 tablespoon of sugar. So I'm gonna, like sugar is damp, so it has lumps. So I gotta crush out some of those. And there's still one there. Crush. Okay. So we've got our 1 tablespoon of sugar, and we're gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. So vanilla, and I'm going to take my whisk. If you don't have a whisk, you can use a spoon, and just sort of whisk that up so the sugar's all dissolved. And like I said, you can just pour it all in the bag and avoid having to wash a whisk in a bowl, but I want my ingredients to be nice and mixed together. Okay, so at this point, if you want to add other ingredients, you could add 2 tablespoons of chopped up strawberries, or you could, instead of vanilla, you could put a 1/4 teaspoon of peppermint extract and add a tablespoon of mini chocolate chips to make a mint chocolate chip. I would put the chips in probably after it's had a chance to freeze a little bit. Or you could, at the end, put in a crushed Oreo to make cookies and cream ice cream. Or you could use different flavoring, like orange or lemon or coconut. Maybe if you do coconut, you could sprinkle some coconut flakes in there to make a coconut ice cream, or coconut and chocolate chips and make like an Almond Joy, not Almond Joy, Mounds, that candy bar with the chocolate and coconut flavor. You can mess around with the flavors. Your base recipe is the tablespoon of sugar and the cup of milk, or half and half. And then everything else can be experimented with. Okay, so we have our mixture mixed up here. So, oh, that wasn't good. I ripped my good quality zipper bag. What does that say about the quality of my zipper bag? Okay, so we're going to open up the bag. And if you want, you can get a funnel. I'm going to wing it here without a funnel. Just swirling it around to make sure there's no sugar stuck to the bottom. And I'm going to pour that into my bag. Yep, there's a little bit of sugar still in the bottom there. Just scrape that in there. This is actually plenty sweet, so a little bit of sugar is not going to matter too much. Okay, if you just put your ingredients in the bag to mix it, close it up, leave a little bit of air in the bag so you can have some room to slosh it around and mix it up really well. Okay, now we want to make sure, after it's all mixed, that we get as much air as we can out of there. So I kind of sort of fold it up a little bit, and you want to make sure that you pinch all the way from one corner to the other and make sure that it's tightly sealed. And you can test that seal, just gently tip it over till it's upside down. Nothing's coming out. Good seal. Okay, now you're going to stick this in the refrigerator until it's cold, because you could start to freeze it like this, but it would take much longer. So if you start with your ingredients cold, it's going to take a lot less time to freeze. So in the fridge we go, and then we'll, when it's cold, we'll bring it back out. I actually tasted this mixture, and I think it needs a smidge more vanilla. So I'm going to put another 1/4 teaspoon in there, just to give it a little more flavor. So if we have a 1/2 teaspoon, that's on the outside. Of course it is. 1/4 teaspoon plus the 1/2 teaspoon that we already put in there. What is the total amount of vanilla that we're talking about here? 1/2 plus 1/4. 1/2 is how many quarters? 2 quarters. So 2 quarters plus 1/4 is 3 quarters. So we want 3/4 of a teaspoon. Unfortunately, they do not make 1/4 teaspoon measures, as far as I know. So we either have to measure 3/4 teaspoons or a 1/2 plus 1/4. In the fridge we go. Okay, so now our mixture is very cold. And so now we're going to do the ice part. So we're going to open our big bag. And I've got some ice here that I froze, because I don't have an ice maker. So I'm going to try and put in, you know what, I'm going to measure 2 cups. I actually have a 2-cup measure, which most people don't have. I'm just lucky enough to do that. I inherited that from my mother-in-law, so here I'm putting 2 cups in. I'll probably just have enough. A little left over. Get the bag in my way. There we go. Doesn't matter if you have more or... Okay. So that was 3 ice cube trays full of ice, and I still have probably enough for another batch. So we've got our ice in there. Now we're going to need 1/4 cup of salt. And I'm using regular table salt. You can use, if you have kosher salt, if you have rock salt. Usually when you do crank your own ice cream, you use rock salt, but I'm just using regular table salt. That works fine, and you're just going to sprinkle that in. I want to shake it around a little bit so it gets all over. Oh, the one thing I wanted to do is to show you the difference between a regular ice cube and a salted ice cube. And I have a thermometer here that can, this is an instant read thermometer, and I'm going to stick it in with the regular ice. Let's see. Oh, this is saying 39.40. Yeah, let's put it, the tip actually in the ice. 35, 34, 33, 32. Okay, it's holding at 32. So let's see what the salted ice is coming out as. I'll put this in between. Whoa. I don't know if you can see this. It's down to 3 degrees right there. 2 degrees, 3 degrees. Wow. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. Yeah, that's way, way below 32. I don't know if you can see that, but right there is 10, 9, 12. Even so. Hard to believe that the ice, the salt makes that much difference in the ice. But there you go. So that is how we can use this ice to freeze our ice cream. So we're going to take our Ziploc bag and we're going to put our milk mixture in there. We're going to close up this bag, try to squeeze. You can leave a little air in because that'll help the ice to move around. You want to kind of get the ice settled around in there. Oh, and make sure you have some gloves or mittens or oven mitts or a towel to wrap your hands in because, you know, 10 degrees is pretty cold to be holding. So now what you're going to do is you're going to shake this bag. So put on some peppy music and get your gloves on and start shaking. It's going to take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes for this to freeze. So you want, regular pop song is probably about 3 minutes. So listen to about 3 or 4 minutes of music. Or, I mean 3 or 4 songs to make 9 to 10 minutes. You want to set a timer, you can set a timer. And just start shaking. I'm actually going to put more ice in there because I just want to surround the milk with the ice. So just make sure you get it mixed up with the salted ice so that it freezes. Oh well, it's okay. It's not going to hopefully touch the stuff inside, so it won't matter too much that it was on the counter. Okay, so we're going to close this up again, squeeze some of the air out, put my gloves back in, my ice back in the freezer, and shake it. There we go. So I've been shaking this for just 5 minutes, and already you can see that it's it's solidified. It's, you know, pretty ice cream-like in there. I'm going to shake it for just a little bit more, just to make sure it's completely frozen. But, you know, you figure out you want it soft. You can take it out now, but you can see that it's, you know, it's not sticking to the bag in there. It's smushy. So I'm going to just do another couple minutes and just make sure. Okay, so I would say we have ice cream in there. So what you're going to do is carefully open the big bag. Just the big bag. And we're going to take that out. Yeah, look at that. That's pretty frozen. And we're going to very quickly rinse this bag in very cold water just to get the salt water off. We don't want to melt the ice cream, so do it quick. Okay. I'm going to wrap it in a towel just to keep it from dripping. And then we're going to take a corner of the bag and we're going to snip it off and we're going to squeeze the ice cream into a bowl. Just for curiosity's sake, I want to see what the temperature in this bag is after we've taken the ice cream out. It's about 27. So even with the ice half melted, it's still below the freezing point. Pretty cool. It's science. Okay, so you're going to squeeze the stuff away from a corner. You're just going to snip it off there. And I'm going to squeeze it out into our bowl. Look at that. Does that look like ice cream? Sure looks like ice cream to me. You just squeeze it. If you want it to set up a little bit more, you can stick it in the freezer for a bit. Or eat it soft like this. And like I said, if you had some ingredients with fat, like half and half, or half milk and half cream, it's going to be creamier and less icy. Oh yeah, that's a little bit drippy. Okay, so there, look at that. I think that looks like ice cream. And it tastes like ice cream. And I am going to I have crushed up an Oreo in a baggie. Whoop. If you don't want to use a plastic bag, you can crush it between two pieces of wax paper or plastic wrap. Or just, I don't know, maybe you could grate it on a grater. This is a double stuff, so all the cream is stuck inside the bag. But you can do this, mix that in there, and make some cookies and cream ice cream. Yeah, see, it's already starting to melt because it's hot in my kitchen. But so you might want to stick it in the freezer for a little bit just to keep it firm. You can put chocolate syrup on it. You can throw some sprinkles on there. Whatever you like. Let's see how this cookies and cream. Oh, the sprinkles are making rainbow streaks. Okay. Let's see how the cookies and cream taste here. Pretty good. So there you go. You got your ice cream. It's a hot day. Enjoy.